The views and content expressed on the following program are provided solely for informational and entertainment purposes. They do not constitute legal advice. A podcast is not a substitute for retaining a competent, licensed attorney to advise you on your specific legal situation.
Break the business, play is work and work is play. Power in the creators, have fun along the way. Break the business, doing what it takes. Celebrate success and learn from the mistakes.
How's it going, everybody? Welcome to the show. It is time for Break the Business, where we empower indie creators and have some fun along the way. I'm Ryan Kairalla, and it is a pleasure to have you here this week. Fine program we have for you this week, viewers and listeners. Safe to say, I can say this with a great deal of optimism and confidence, we've brought it this week. We got fantastic guests, fantastic co-hosts, great stories. You're going to have yourself quite a bit of fun for the next hour. I know I'm going to have fun chatting with y'all. And so I'm hoping that joy on this end of the microphone is infectious to those of you listening at home, because I think we're going to have ourselves some fun today. Joining us in the second segment, really cool guests we have this week, Lons Pierce. For those of you who don't know Lons, let me give you a little bit of insight into her. In addition to being a terrific recording artist, absolutely amazing hip-hop skills on our friend Lons Pierce, she's also a really skilled entrepreneur, and not one of these like spent a lot of time in college, reading a bunch of books kind of entrepreneur. Instead, she's got it in her blood, man. She is a born entrepreneur, a just straight up business genius. The founder of Luminary Creative Agency. It's a brand incubator. It's worked with some of the biggest names in music and sports and celebrity. She's worked on a ton of amazing projects, and she did it all with grit, with hard work, starting at the bottom, working her way to the top, and just hustling. And so there's a lot to be inspired by from Lons' story, and there's a lot of great advice that I'm sure she can share with us. So all of that's coming up in the second segment. I only have about 1 billion questions for her. How I'm going to distill all that to our normal interview time and just kind of opt for the most important questions so that we can actually get you all out of here on time, that's going to be my challenge, because I have so much stuff I want to ask her about, and it's going to be an absolute blast. Don't go anywhere in the second segment. You're going to enjoy that interview quite a bit. I was reading, viewers and listeners, that in the past week, the podcast New Heights, the podcast featuring the Kelce brothers, Jason Kelce, Travis Kelce, the NFL stars, had what is believed to be the most downloaded podcast ever when you count impressions on downloads or Instagram impressions, social media, YouTube. When you put it all together, estimates, according to USA Today, have the latest episode of New Heights with Jason and Travis Kelce totaling over 500 million impressions, 500 million views and listens of the latest episode of that show. And one of the reasons why they were able to reach that stratospheric number, we'll just say the main reason, the only reason, is because the guest they had on that program was Travis Kelce's girlfriend. You might know her. She's an up-and-coming artist named Taylor Swift. And so apparently the trick to having a podcast that has 500 million people watching it or listening to it is having Taylor Swift on the show. So I am hoping that this week we can mimic that formula a bit, because we happen to have our own blonde-haired dog mom from Nashville joining us in the form of our co-host this week, Katie Zaccardi. Hi, Katie.
Wow. I have no words.
The numbers are rolling in. I can feel it.
It's funny because, one could argue that I'm no longer blonde. And also, Taylor Swift is not a dog mom. She's, famously a cat mom. But
why did I think she had a dog?
I don't think she does. She's famously a cat person. So
Producer Lauren, look this up for us. And if she is indeed, I'm surely at some point in her life, she had to have had a dog. I can lawyer myself into this being right somehow.
I actually think you're wrong.
Producer Lauren is shaking me off.
had cats
Shake it off, shaking me off.
Not have my mic set up well. I apologize in advance, but Taylor Swift does not publicly own any dogs. She is a devoted cat mom to Meredith Grey, Olivia Benson, and Benjamin Button.
Yeah.
Well, then my joke doesn't work.
Well, yeah. Well, that's okay.
I spent like 6 hours workshopping that joke, like practicing it in front of the mirror, and now you've ruined it. You know, in reality, like she can't.
You're like, what is this brunette dog mom doing when you were?
So yeah,
she's like a blonde cat mother.
So you're not a blonde anymore, and you don't own the same dog she does.
Yeah.
I mean, other than having, being equally good as recording artists, like you have nothing in common with this woman. Like we're never going to get the Kelsey numbers from this, Katie. Get it together.
I'm sorry. I would have dyed my hair and bought a cat if I knew it was this important to you.
It is decidedly important to me. As I think about it, of course she's not a dog mom. Dogs require maintenance. She's traveling all over the world. Like you can leave a cat at home. They do their thing. They're basically independent. But yeah, you can't be a dog mom and travel the world on tour. That's fair.
Yeah.
That.
Although I think people do it. Like Ariana Grande has a bunch of dogs, if I'm remembering correctly. But I think she probably just leaves them with family or something when she's, off being Glinda or whatever.
That's probably right. Yeah, because you can't leave dogs to their own. Like they are just completely and utterly dependent creatures. It is so good to see you, Katie. It's been entirely too long. I hate these like long extended breaks that we have between our co-host appearances, which I think yours and mine was particularly extended because like I've been in China and so I might have missed like a Katie Zaccardi show in there.
And let me tell you this, last week or last month, I didn't know you were going to be gone. I missed the memo.
Did I not let you know?
No. And so I show up and I'm like, am I supposed to be here? And Lauren and Zach are like, yeah, no, you're supposed to be here. And I was like, okay, cool. Here I am. But I'm glad to see you with your back from China and with your new beard too.
Beard, yeah. I took all the hair that was on the top and I moved it to my chin, and that's where we are. How was your Zach Sloan show? Because I got to tell you, I've heard differing views about how the China shows went. I asked Zach how they went, and Zach, ever the optimist, like amazing teammate that Zach is, told me everyone was wonderful. The show was great, boss. Double thumbs up. Nothing went wrong while you were gone. And then last week, I asked producer Lauren, who is far more honest and, maybe not the same kind of teammate Zach Sloan is. And, she basically said in so many words that it was like a cluster F. And though everybody did their best and like the shows, were overall very strong, it was a bit of a nightmare behind the scenes the whole time. And so I need Katie Zaccardi to break the tie. How was the experience for you while I was gone?
No, it was good. I think we had a technical difficulty right at the top of our show, but like other than that, we were so good to go. And it was handled very well. So no complaints on my end, but I am laughing at Lauren thinking it was chaotic.
I can see Lauren in the green room, like spinning around your chair, just reliving the madness of whatever that was while I was gone.
It felt like, and I don't like have step siblings or anything, but like, it felt like almost like, or like getting together with your like distant cousin, because like me and Zach obviously have a very close relationship with this show independently, but then we're like, oh, you're here? Oh, you're also here? Like, we're like, okay, like mom and dad aren't here anymore. We're just like left alone to our own devices. So it was fun. I feel like it was, we kept it fresh.
It had like substitute teacher vibes to it. It sounds like.
A little bit, yeah.
I mean, I haven't heard any complaints from the viewing and listening audience. And what I have heard has been, positive. I mean, everybody loves Zach. Everybody loves you. So, I mean, me putting distance between myself and the show could have only been a good thing.
No.
But good to be back and good to see your smiling face. I'm generally pleased about the world and I'm excited to be here with you. But right before this show went to air, I heard some news that kind of ruined my mood a bit.
What was it?
Well, I mean, on the surface, you would think that this is good news because it involves something involving one of my favorite pieces of pop culture property that exists in the world. Like my favorite like IP that is out there. And that is the Muppets. I don't know if you know this about me, Katie, but I'm a very big Muppets fan.
I did not know that.
Yes. We Muppets fans, we generally like to not advertise it as much because we don't know how the people will react, But me, I adore them. I think they are absolutely wonderful. I have a particularly profound enjoyment of Swedish Chef. And, I like to think like I'm a witty guy. Like my humor is pretty highbrow, but for some reason, whenever that damn chef just starts talking complete nonsense in a way that's probably offensive to the Swedish people, it just sets off something in me. I cannot stop laughing. It's uncontrollable. Like, for some reason, when that chef is just talking nonsense and like throwing spatulas in the air and stuff, it is the highest form of comedy in my eyes. So, all of that is meant to say, whenever I hear any news involving the Muppets getting any kind of gig out up there, there's that chef. We love him. So any kind of gig involving the Muppets, you'd think I'd be happy. And I was at first. So when I heard the news yesterday as we record this, that the Muppets are going to be on Broadway, you would think that this, look in there, and producer Lauren puts up the graphic of the Muppets on Broadway, that I would be happy about this, as well I should be, right? Because
you think.
I mean, because if you think about it, I mean, I'm no Broadway producer, but if I was a Broadway producer, I mean, putting the Muppets on Broadway is about the most obvious way to make a giant pile of money on Broadway that you can think of, right? Built-in audience. Everybody loves the Muppets. Even people who don't like Broadway. If you're just like walking down, 42nd Street and you see like the poster for the Muppets on Broadway, you're going to be far more interested in seeing that than, some other Broadway show. Because everybody, Muppets, universally beloved. And they sing and they dance. And you could build almost any story around the Muppets, right? Like they can do Muppet Christmas Carol, and that's pretty awesome. They can do parodies of like any other form of IP. I was having a conversation with a friend of mine yesterday that like Muppet Star Trek would absolutely slap, and we need to build that yesterday. But if you're struggling for like a Broadway idea, how about just doing a Broadway live staging of the actual Muppet Show? Like the one they did in the 80s, where it was the Muppets on stage. They did song and dance numbers. You bring in a new celebrity every week to be the human that's like around the Muppets while they do all their shows and performances. Easy way to make a bajillion dollars on Broadway. You can't go wrong with the Muppets on Broadway. Except for the way that they're doing it, according to this announcement. And this is why I'm mad, Katie. Because instead of just putting the Muppets in a Broadway show, giving them their own show, writing a unique Broadway production where the Muppets get to sing and dance and do all the things that we love it when the Muppets do it, they are having the Muppets basically just be a supporting cast to a magician named Rob Lake, who is going to do a limited engagement on Broadway. So it's just a magician doing magician stuff, like, sawing people in half. I don't know what Rob Lake does. I don't follow magicians. And then the Muppets are just going to sort of be hanging around. Like, I guess Kermit gets pulled out of a hat or something. Like, how do you mess this up? How do you take like the most obvious win in the history of Broadway and just woefully underutilize? Oh, we're going to do the Muppets. Awesome. Look, there's Kermit with whoever that magician is. But like, instead of having Kermit do all the things that would make perfect sense on Broadway, like having Kermit sing or having Kermit dance, we're going to have him just standing next to a magician for 2 hours. What are we doing? What are we doing? I'm beside myself. And like, this is such a bad idea and it's not going to work. And now we're never going to get to see the Muppets on Broadway because this is going to fail. And everybody's going to go, oh, Muppets on Broadway? We tried that. It didn't work. And then we don't get to see the Muppets on Broadway ever again. I am so mad.
As long as you put Statler and Waldorf in the like balcony at the theater complaining the whole time, I'm good.
No, it writes itself. You could have a Muppet show on Broadway and have Statler and Waldorf in the balcony being super bitchy to the Muppets while they're doing their show. This is so obvious. This is so easy. How do these Broadway people mess this up? Producer Lauren, get back here. You are our resident expert on all things Broadway. Don't run away from this conversation. I'm holding your community accountable for this. How did you people screw up the Muppets on Broadway so bad?
I don't think that we screwed it up. I think that this guy was brilliant. Because, like, you're right, a gazillion things could have done this, but it took one probably indie creator who said, you know what? I'm going to go on Broadway and I'm going to do it with the Muppets. And then he went on that mission and somehow he got the rights to go on Broadway with the Muppets. And I'm not going to be a hater and go, how come he didn't do it better? I'm going to go, man, I wish I thought of that first. And I wish I did it as a full-on musical and made them dance because I may not have, but that guy did.
I'm not blaming the magician.
That guy totally pulled it off.
I'm not blaming that guy. I would put the Muppets around me if I could. Like, if we could have every week on Break the Business, like 17 boxes around me and Katie of just the Muppets, like, that's obviously going to be a good idea. I don't blame this magician whose name I've already forgotten because that's how little he, means compared to the Muppets. I blame the Muppets and whoever are in charge of greenlighting Muppet projects.
Wow.
All right? Like, I get it. They're lazy, right? It's hard to write a new show. It's easy to just license the Muppets to stand next to a magician for 2 hours, and that's what we're going to get on Broadway. Fine. Don't write a new show. Take all of the other beloved musical productions that the Muppets have done. The Muppet Movie, The Great Muppet Caper, Muppets Take Manhattan, A Muppet Christmas Carol, Muppet Treasure Island. God, that damn masterpiece. Just stage any of those and you have an instant Broadway smash. What are we doing? I say again. Katie, I'm losing my mind here. Katie, are you a Muppets fan? Like, does any of this resonate with you? Like, I feel like if you're not, you should be.
No.
What?
I'm not a fan of the Muppets, but I cannot find it in me to like be as passionate about this as you are. And I gotta be honest with you, I'm actually kind of still stuck on the like, why is a magician on Broadway in the first place? Like
also a good point.
There's a lot of layers to this, and if it was like, I don't know, Patti LuPone surrounded by the Muppets or something doing her show, like that makes sense to me. But a magician, like, why are we even putting a magician on Broadway? Is there going to be singing and dancing?
It does seem like a waste of Broadway real estate to just have some magician in there.
Like, revive Mamma Mia, for Christ's sake.
Okay, hold on. Broadway isn't just musicals.
I don't care. I don't want to see a magician. Like, I don't.
So
I don't know.
the thing that weirds me out when I think of this or anything that really makes it to Broadway these days is that the average Broadway musical takes 8 years and $10 million to make it to Broadway. So when you think about this, it's not really a guy who came up with an idea and pulled it off. This guy had to like shop it out to investors over years and years, workshop it and make it. So that means that many people invested in and wanted to give money to somebody who got the rights for this. So like, if you don't be mad at Broadway and don't be mad at this wonderful man who found a way to live his dream. And
again, none of us remember his name because all that matters is the Muppets, because that's what brings people to Broadway.
After, right. And he's smart and he knows it. And he knows when he puts himself with a marquee of Muppets that it doesn't matter if anyone remembers his name because they're going to see the Muppet Show. And that's fine with me. What bugs me is the 1% that decides that what the rest of the world wants to see and is willing to go on Broadway with their investor money me is the Muppets doing a show with a magician and not investing their millions and millions of dollars in a musical with the Muppets doing a kick line like the Rockettes, because that would entertain me. Like a bunch of the chickens. Could you imagine like the chickens doing the Rockette line?
Also, I have more questions because like, who is this for? Because I would have.
Thank you.
Everyone?
But no, because if it's Muppets, then I feel like inherently it kind of has to be for kids. But is it gonna be for kids?
Wait.
Is it gonna be PG? Is the magician gonna be like?
Is Muppets really for kids?
I gotta stop you right there, Katie Zaccardi.
You don't think?
You gotta stop throwing around this for kids nonsense as if the Muppets don't belong to everybody, including grown-ass people like me.
I'm not saying that it's only for kids. I'm just saying, like, is it meant to be like is it gonna be kid friendly? I guess is what I'm just trying to say.
Yeah.
And therefore family friendly and therefore accessible to everyone. Or is this like an adult magician who like whose audience is other adults, but then he's also bringing in the Muppets? Do you understand what I mean?
It's not clear to me what intersection of audiences are converging that want to see, like, you know, who are like, you know, I really like the Muppets, but what I would really like is for them to sing and dance less and do more magic tricks. Like, I don't know if that audience exists.
I will be curious to see how this goes.
Oh, I'm so embittered by this. Like, to me, it's just it's the greater trend that I'm just seeing in the entertainment industry, to like sort of tie this back to this show a little bit, is I feel like this has happened a lot, like post-COVID and like going into the streaming era, is a lot of the people who are in charge of greenlighting projects, be they music projects, TV projects, or in this case, Broadway projects, are so often just looking past the clear, obvious, good idea that everybody would want and that would be universally beloved, and just go for like quick, fast cash grab.
Yeah.
You know, because they are, you know, because it's all about whatever the shareholders want and whatever is going to be good for the quarterly balance sheet. So rather than invest the $10 million to, as producer Lauren said, to create the Muppet Broadway show, that again is a surefire hit that could run for 20 years, because who doesn't love the Muppets?
Okay.
According to life.
It's not forever.
What
And then, I don't know, something about it's not going to run forever, and that's not true.
No, it's limited run. It's intentional.
No, no, the magic show's not going to run forever. But by the way, even if it wasn't going to be a limited engagement, it's going to be a limited engagement. That thing would close in like 2 weeks because you'd make everybody mad. But rather than do like the ambitious project that actually costs money, but you know is going to be a hit, they go for the quick cash grab, because it's really easy to just sign your name on some licensing paperwork to some magician to like just have the Muppets run for 2 or 3 weeks and then make you some quick money. And ultimately, the art suffers and media suffers and the fans suffer, because we don't get the thing that we would all want. And I'm telling you, Katie, like, you're saying you're not a Muppets fan. Like, if you gave me a weekend, because you're a music person, you love a good song and dance. I feel like if I sat you down at my house, we took a solid weekend, I ran you through Muppet Christmas Carol and Muppet Treasure Island, and you got like, you know, Michael Caine singing a delightful little Christmas number, and Tim Curry chewing the hell out of the scenery in Muppet Treasure Island, I'd make a fan out of you.
Okay.
Make no mistake.
I'm not doubtful. I just haven't consumed a lot of Muppet media, I guess. But you know, hey, they're popular for a reason. So
absolutely. Oh my God. So this makes me very, you know, we'll ask Lons Pierce about this in the next segment. I don't know. I don't know if she's a Muppet fan, but what I do know is that she is a entrepreneurial genius when it comes to the entertainment industry. And she might actually have some insight on Like why does the entertainment industry just like miss on things like this so badly? Why do the people who are in charge of green lighting stuff don't green light the things that obviously would be a hit and that everybody would love? But before we bring her in, God, I spent way too much time yelling about the Muppets, but it was worth
Ryan,
it.
Before we segue, can I bring up one thing that this reminded me of, though, that was a hit this week, in contrary to a miss, which this is a miss.
Okay, yes.
Okay. Not to take over your topics, but have you been on TikTok and have you seen the Lorax? Let me ask you this.
I mean, first of all, you should know, father of toddler, I love the Lorax. I actually have the story of the Lorax completely memorized because I've read it to my son so many times. So I'm very interested in that story. I know it very well. I, however, don't know anything of like what's going on with the Lorax with respect to TikTok. So
okay,
please
I'm going to
educate
give
me.
like a 30-second update. If you are chronically online like I am, you might have seen that a couple weeks ago there was a Hamilton trend going around where girls were dressing up as Hamilton, but really dressing up as Lin-Manuel Miranda as Hamilton, and like lip syncing funnily to one of the songs in Hamilton. Well, one of the girls who did that, her name is Ashby, and she blew up because her videos were really, really funny doing that trend. Then she started going live dressed as the Lorax. She's never seen the movie, but she just created this character of the Lorax, and she has been thriving. She grew to like 1 million followers, I believe.
So,
producer Lauren, thank you for this thing. So the Lorax has been a trend, to my understanding, like a loose trend. But if you pull up Ashby and if you search Ashby specifically, ASHBY, you will see that she has like, it's honestly, a lot of the videos are people posting clips of her lives. And she is so funny. She is like so sweet and pure. And the videos that she has are genuinely hilarious. I have been laughing my butt off at these for a week straight. And it's just cool to see someone like grow really quickly at something. And I feel like even though she's not a musician, she's doing more comedy, although she does have original music too, which is like really cool because she's like being kind of strategic about how she posts stuff. And she's kind of letting a lot of the content about her come from other people from recording her lives, but her lives are really popular. And then she'll post like specific things, including some of her music stuff, like when she wants to. And anyway, I highly recommend after this for people who haven't seen her, like literally just search that on TikTok. You will laugh your butt off if you have like any.
I mean, I need to take a step back because I think I missed this. Why does she dress like the Lorax who speaks for the trees?
I don't know. Like I don't.
Because you had me at like she was lip syncing Hamilton.
Yeah.
And I'm still trying to like find the connecting thread between the Hamilton and Dr. Seuss.
I don't know. She started gaining an audience, and so I'm guessing she just like had a Lorax costume, and she was doing impressions of other people. She's also gone live as like Dobby and Pitbull. she's done live like pretending to be Pitbull. So she just likes to do like characters and impressions and stuff like that. But the Lorax stuff it's so, I mean, she is so in the pocket with it that like, I think people just like really attached to it. And so she keeps doing it.
I love it. Producer Laura just keeps putting up images of a wall of orange people dressed as the Lorax.
So I just wanted to bring that up. I didn't mean to derail the conversation, but I feel like that was a positive fictional character / comedian / musician win of the week.
I mean, we let Seuss on Broadway.
Yeah. Seussical?
We got Seussical.
I love Seussical.
Okay, if you love Seussical, all right, the Muppets can do so much better. Like, and I'm not knocking Seuss, all right? I'm a father of a toddler. I love me some Dr. Seuss. That guy is basically parenting my child at this point. But, you know, if Seussical can walk, like the Muppets can run on Broadway.
I
just
believe
put that out there.
Yeah, I think that at least it could be equally as good.
Because the Muppets, like, we know the Muppets can sing and dance. They have proven it. Movie after movie after movie. Generations of just bangers of songs that they've given us.
Honestly, what else must they do to finally get their big break?
In all fairness, they've been trying. Like, it's been more than a decade since there have been talks of like a Muppet musical, and it just never flies.
Oh my God!
We don't know the behind the scenes. Okay?
Trying to like.
Maybe Miss Piggy is like a real diva and they just can't get the contracts to work, you know, negotiations and agents. It's, you know, she's a real diva.
She is historically impossible to work with. We know this about her, but it's worth it, you know? Oh my God. You could set up the show where like you give like, you know, because everybody knows the Muppets work best when there's one human around the Muppets, right? When it's all Muppets, like that's okay. But when it's one less Muppet and a human in there, but the human plays it straight and like doesn't acknowledge that they're Muppets, that's where the magic happens. So you could have the Muppet Broadway show. What?
You mean like a magician?
No, because like
it happened by being the one man with all the Muppets.
No, because they have to sing and dance with the Muppets too.
But
like you could do this Broadway show where like every 2 weeks you bring in like another famous actor to like fill in the role of the human to do like a 2-week engagement with the Muppets, and then people have to come back and see what human's going to be on the run this week. Oh, it's Bernadette Peters, and there's Hugh Jackman.
Yes, that works. It was just entirely too entertaining for me to hear you literally say, if you just do a show with all the Muppets and one human, it would be magic. It was because you said it would be magic.
It would be magic. Yeah, you really backed yourself into that.
I did. That's fair. You know what? Fine. Let's do the magic show on Broadway. Everyone's right and I'm wrong. That's fine. God, we just blew through our first segment. I had like 5 different things that I wanted to talk to you about, and like we burned through all of it, and now we're done with our first segment. And we'll see if we can weave some of those things in for the interview, because I do want to bring in Lance Pierce. I'm very, very excited to speak with our guest. So let's take 2 minutes, Katie, and we will be back with our guest here after the break here on Break the Business. Don't go anywhere. Break the Business is presented in cooperation with Ryan Kairalla, PA. Ryan Kairalla, PA is a law firm providing transactional entertainment legal services, including contracts, business formation, commercial law, copyright, trademark, and more. Ryan Kairalla, PA, Miami, Florida. rkpalaw.com.
Streaming services for Break the Business provided by LEK Entertainment. LEK Entertainment is a full-service entertainment company offering everything from consultations to full-scale events and productions, including audio and video productions, voiceovers, staged theatrical productions, script and music development, and streaming services. For more information, visit lekentertainment.com. LEK Entertainment wants to help you bring your story to life.
Thanks for supporting Break the Business. If you have a question or topic that you want us to discuss, email us at breakthebusiness@gmail.com. You can follow the host, that's me, on Twitter at Ryan Kair, and you can follow the show at the BTB Podcast. Be sure to subscribe to the show on Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook, and on all major podcast platforms. And now, let's get back to the show. Welcome back to Break the Business, everybody. Ryan Kairalla here with Katie Zaccardi, having just a grand old time. Let me just say that We so much appreciate you checking out this program wherever you do. Much how you can enjoy the Kelseys and Taylor Swift on a wide range of platforms, as 500 million people apparently did. You can also find Katie Zaccardi and myself on just as many platforms, whether it is on our satellite radio home on SiriusXM 145, or on our live streaming home at volume.com, or on platforms like Twitch or YouTube, or on all major podcast platforms. There are plenty of places to check out this show, audio-wise and visually, and wherever you're checking us out, let me just say, so glad that you are. And if you're ever thinking to yourself, man, love this show, would love for any opportunity to help support whatever you all are doing, all that we ask is 3 words: tell a friend. Tell people about what we're doing here. Help us grow this little community so that we can help as many creators as possible by bringing them great news, great insights, great interviews. If you do that, you will have a special place in our hearts. Katie, let us go ahead and bring in our guest this week. She is a recording artist, entrepreneur, and the founder of Luminary Creative Agency, an acclaimed brand incubator that has launched business projects for artists like Mark Anthony, and athletes like Tom Brady, people like Snoop Dogg, Neo, and Charlie Walk. You can find out more about our guest's work by visiting luminarycreativeagency.com. We are happy to welcome Lance Pierce on to Break the Business. Hello, Lance.
Hey, thank you so much. Great to be.
Great to be here as well. Boy, the audio is hit or miss there. Do we have Lance?
Can you hear me?
We're hearing a little bit of echo.
Okay. Well, let's
see if we can straighten out the echo cancellation, maybe. Now, all right. So let's try again. Wait, one more time. Hello.
Can you hear me now?
Yes. All right. Oh, fantastic. We were worried there for a second. Glad we got that sorted out. Lance, great to be chatting with you. Very nice to meet you. Excited for your insights and just the cool story that you have. I do want to get into all the aspects of your story, both not only what you do as an artist, what you do as an entrepreneur, what you do with Luminary, and just like your whole story, like from the very early days. It's all really cool and inspiring. But before we get too deep into that, wanted to know if you had any thoughts on just some of the stuff that we were talking about before. I don't know if Lance Pierce is in fact a fan of the Muppets, but one of the kind of threads that we were bringing up in my Muppets crash out in the last segment was the idea that I feel like the entertainment industry is losing a lot of its ambition, is losing a lot of its desire to take big creative swings, right? They want short-term, quick ways to make money at the expense of long-term projects that ultimately would lead to better art and maybe even more long-term profitability, but they're higher risks. So you end up with an entertainment industry that leans more towards monetizing legacy artists' catalogs over breaking new artists, or gives us original film or fewer original movies in Hollywood versus more sequels and adaptations and remakes, or just licensing the Muppets to a magician on Broadway rather than having a full-on Muppets Broadway show that everybody would love, even Katie Zaccardi. What's your feeling on that? Because you've been in this industry long enough that you kind of see what's been happening with entertainment as a whole. I mean, is my thesis kind of on point in your eyes?
Yeah, I definitely agree. A lot of it is just, the opportunity to, take commodity and, repurpose it. And it doesn't obviously require the kind of ingenuity and risk that it does to create something brand new. So, that kind of like cyclical effect, like bring back the bell bottoms from the 70s vibe is, that seems to be where a lot of art is. But, I think, for instance, I saw Good Night and Good Luck on Broadway with George Clooney. And that is what I liked about that was a huge education for me about Edward Murrow, which, I wasn't born then. I had no idea about like the McCarthy era. And it was about something that, was already, a topic and it wasn't necessarily a brand new idea, but it educated me and probably, my entire demographic. So I think it can be done correctly. You can take something that's old and make it feel new and cool if it's done with some of that kind of thought and detail that I think that you're talking about is missing a lot.
Absolutely. And boy, I that is on my list of like things to see. I did see the movie. God, the movie's probably like what, 20, 25 years old or something like that. It was a while ago.
He didn't see the movie. So that's, that.
Oh, well, you should add that to your list. The movie's pretty good too, but I do want to see the show on Broadway because like that's going to obviously be really, really great.
It was amazing.
But perhaps the folks that need to kind of carry the torch of originality back in the entertainment industry, of ambitious projects, are the indies. What the spirit that you sort of took the mantle of when you became an independent artist. But let's begin at the beginning with you, because your beginning is pretty wild. You broke into the music industry through basically pure grit. I read that you were 14 years old when you called and showed up at the offices of Quad Studios and basically just, I guess, harassed them until they gave you an internship, and you were willing to just scrub the floors and the toilets just to get yourself into the building. Do I have this right?
That is true. And then I got fired when my mother showed up one day carrying rubber gloves and said, "You have my underage daughter working here and you don't give her gloves when she cleans." Swear, real true story. I did go back years later when I was signed to Interscope, and we did this kind of like docu style video piece on me. And we interviewed Willis, who was the studio manager. And, he talked about how like I would walk around rapping and I was just, so hungry and, driven. I can't imagine doing anything like that now. But, when we're like 15, there's the ego and the pride it's non-existent. We don't have all that coloring. We're just like ready to like get in there any way you can.
Well, let's talk about Lons Pierce at 15, because to call you, driven might require a gift for understatement. From what I read, you dropped out of school at 14 and just fully invested yourself into breaking into the New York City underground rap scene. All your friends are finishing high school, they're applying to college. Yeah. You're doing underground rap scene stuff as a teenager. What was driving you back then? How did you pick this path? Yeah. And, this might be kind of a crazy thing to ask later in life, but like, what did your parents think of all this as they were like taking your rubber gloves to the Quad City studios while you were scrubbing toilets?
Very, very fair question. So, I was definitely, doing something against the grain. It wasn't popular with parents, nor was it popular even with the school system, nor actually with friends. It wasn't like, your friend circle is like supportive, like go be a rock star. I was definitely teased and thought of to be like absolutely crazy and throwing my life away. They were like, who and what are you doing? It was just, honestly, it was in me. I was like very, very driven by the poetry, the rhythm, the music. And, I think, for whatever was going on in my like home life, which, at that time was what it was, I think the music was an escape for me. And so, I would freestyle and rap after school on my walk home with all the boys. And I was actually really good. And I think when you're a kid and you find that you're good at something, like you get attention for it and you're good at it, you're like, oh, and then mix that with like the naivete of like being so young and like, giving a F kind of attitude. You don't think through it. I was lucky enough that I got signed at 16 by Jimmy Iovine, because certainly it could be a very different path, but not without a lot of struggle. And those like underground mic clubs you were talking about, they don't really exist anymore. TikTok, Twitch, all these amazing vehicles that we have that are so cool, right? Like we can connect right now on this show to, the hundreds of thousands of people that are probably listening. But at that moment in time, you had to go, you would stand in line, you would wait hours to perform, you'd get on stage in front of an audience that was more than happy to boo you, kid or not, they didn't care. And you had to take that, but you also became such a good performer and you learned like passion and grit and all those things. So I'm actually really grateful that I had that. Yeah.
So where does the business acumen come from? If it didn't come from formal education, is it something that's just sort of in your blood? Was it forged through the New York City underground rap scene? Like where did the entrepreneurial spirit and abilities come from in your life?
I remember doing a show and I was paid in a check, like a written, like ripped the check out of the checkbook and the check bounced. Like there was no money. That wasn't real. Like I actually, and I think that like very early on, I started to realize, oh, okay. So if you don't actually understand this part and you don't protect yourself and you don't learn and you're not savvy here, then, it just like, it doesn't make sense. Like you can rap all you want, but it won't be a career. So I think it's definitely started, incubated inside of the music industry. I also, I think I also made like some of the idols and like the mentors that I looked up to, even people that I don't know. Like I have like studied the like Peter Thiels of the world. And, I watch a lot of like TED Talks, and I think I'm just really interested in smart creation. Like I want to know about the people who think like, I'm like, how did they think of Uber? Like who thought like Airbnb? Like these things are just fascinating to me. I'm just like, so I try to study those things too and be a lifelong learner.
And it sounds like that early story of that check bouncing, I can't help but think that event was kind of a pivotal one for you in shaping one of the first ventures that you helped incubate, which was a financial literacy platform for artists. I assume that financial literacy is still a big passion of yours.
Yeah, it's true. Well, also, when you're signed to a major label, so I was signed by Jimmy Iovine and Interscope Records. And the thing about it is that you think that you're then somehow rich and famous, right? But it's not true. You get signed and you get this like little bit of money, and that little bit of money is technically called recoupable, which of course at 16, I've never heard that word before. So the education process at all of the different rungs continues, and so to your question, financial literacy, not just for me, but for my entire music industry friend circle and network that I had built both in the underground. And then even when I was signed and Gaga and I were, friendly, and, 3-6 Mafia and all the people that I kind of collaborated with, financial literacy is not something that most artists have. They kind of like, they look to their managers and all these like kind of handlers to tell them what they need or what to do, but they don't really know how to navigate themselves. And often outside of the advance you get, you don't actually make any money for a very long time. So you're on tour support, which basically means, you are being funded by the label to tour. But when any money comes back in from touring, you have to first pay back the tour support. So you essentially, it's a very long road, right? And it's really the 1%, like the Drakes and the Taylor Swifts, that make real money.
Yeah. And so when you come across artists who are up and coming, who have a lot of talent, who have a lot of promise, who get the Jimmy Iovine style person to take an early interest in their career, what advice do you give them early on to make sure that they stay on track financially, knowing full well that the royalty checks aren't going to come in right away, if ever?
Yeah, I think I just tell them to be an advocate, use all the tools that are out there for you, that's the great thing about the TikToks and all the ability that you have just to kind of just be autonomously educated. You can go to a library, via a couple scrolls, and, you don't have to physically go there. And then of course you can read and ask, the right questions. And so, yeah, but the app that you were talking about that I was involved with was called Hi-Fi. And it was actually a platform that would give artists advances based upon upcoming royalties that they would collect. And so instead of waiting in between 6 or 9 months to get a little bit of this and a little bit of that, this company essentially kind of like aggregated what the earnings of the year would be, was able to give the advance and like kind of function like a business manager, almost like in your pocket. And so in the end, Jack Dorsey, former CEO of Twitter, ended up having Block Inc. and bought this company. So it was the first exit that I got to participate in, which was pretty cool.
We love that celebration. I'm curious,
Yeah.
So with Luminary Creative Agency, you the tagline that you guys even have just on Instagram is "Your brand has a story, we'll help you tell it," which I love. But how do you, what's the difference between now when we have all of these things like TikTok versus when you were signed and coming up and like chilling with Gaga? Because I feel like those are two very different eras. And a lot of times musicians wish maybe they could go back to 2009 or whatever and just like get discovered and not have to think so much about a brand. But they do. And I'm wondering if that was always the case too, or we just didn't see it as much, or not so much.
I think that's such a great question, Katie. I was actually just talking about this today with somebody. I was like, oh, if I were doing what I was doing, during the Snoop Dogg tour and when I was, in that space, I would definitely be much more well known. And so that's because at that moment in time, like there is a video on me. If you Google Lons, I didn't have the Pierce at the time. So it was just Lons, and you put in 3-6 Mafia, Lons, Las Vegas, or like Snoop tour or something like that. And there's a video of me doing the VMAs at Hard Rock, Las Vegas. And there's not even a phone, okay, in the audience recording. It's crazy. It's like, wait, what? And so to your point, yeah, I think it was very different. And I don't think artists had to think about brand every second. They had to think about craft, right? They had to make the hit. They had to make the hit record. It was about the hit, right? And it was like, yeah, like when you went on stage, you had to look great, the hair, the cool was, but like your everyday average kind of thing, unless the paparazzi was following you, for the most part, it was like you didn't have to chime in with every tiny little piece of your life, like how we do on Instagram or on, Twitter now. It's not like you had to, talk about your workouts and your mental health and that wasn't part of the brand, circle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I feel like, working with musicians, I think they're saying it less, but I know that they still feel it, or at least just feel this block around like, how much of myself do I share?
Yeah.
And so I'm curious if you have thoughts on that. And I'm also curious if you have thoughts on finding the balance between the craft and the brand. Because like you can't sacrifice having a really good song because you need a brand, because you have to have both. But it's like, are we doing extra work now? Are we doing double the work that musicians used to do? Or is there a balance that you found works?
Yeah. I mean, I think we're all still probably trying to find the right balance. And I think it probably shifts daily. But I never forget, there's a rapper, his name's Vic Mensa. I think he's really talented. He's definitely been around for some time. And he's, co-signed by all the likes of the who's who's. I remember once was online, like in tears, because he was saying like, I put so much of my soul into my art, and people don't even want to, they want to stream it for free, and like they don't care. Like they're like, oh, why, like, what do you mean? Like there's just always another song. So I think that, yeah, the answer to your question is that the balance is very hard. You have to figure out what it is. People almost sometimes care more about the lifestyle. Like there are more artists, I think, right now that are considered artists because they're using the channels, and you can't be mad at it. Like there's no reason to hate. It's pretty cool. But perhaps it also actually, I would think about it like maybe the negative would be that some of the artists that just want to make great art, they don't have the like bandwidth to be like, well, let me also do all this other stuff.
Yeah.
So you don't really you don't find them as much, so I don't know. For me, I know it's constantly a conversation. It's even a conversation. Like I just dropped a new record called Get It, little plug there. And, I want to promote it. And I have my artist persona, and it's edgy and it's fun. And it's, there's like a little, sexy, cool vibe to it. But I also have to be completely mindful that I really run an actual company that is a tech-driven incubator. I raise venture capital. Anytime I post an artist picture where if I had been working on my abs and my abs are looking, and I want to be I'm like, wait, especially as a woman, I'm like, wait, oh, are they going to take me less seriously? I
got to ring the bell at the New York Stock Exchange tomorrow.
Yeah. Seriously. That actually happened to me once. I literally was working with a company, and I won't throw them under the bus. I'm not going to do it, but they're kind of well known. And I was in Miami, and I posted a picture on my friend's boat. It was a beautiful, kind of yacht-like style boat. And I got fired on Monday. And when I got fired, I was like, what happened? And they were like, yeah, well, we want somebody who's focused on what we're doing, not focused on lifestyle. And I was like, oh, okay. So, it's a real thing. But I realized anyway, though, that's not the type of client I want anyway. That's not what Luminary is about. So that was,
to be fair, you are just the latest in a long and proud tradition of people getting fired because of pictures that were taken of them while they were in Miami. I mean, it is Like Miami has to lead the country in people who've lost jobs because of pictures that have been taken of them while like it's us and then like Las Vegas is right behind.
Yeah, yeah.
So don't feel bad. All right. Like, I mean, like we do this show from Miami. Like, you know, everyone in this town has lost at least one job because of a picture someone took of us there. It just makes you a Miamian. That's all I would say to
There
that.
we go. I like the spin.
But I mean, at this point in your life, what wins out in that spot? Like, is it, I mean, are you leaning more towards like, I'm going to get the picture I want or do the thing I want as the artist? Or is it like, I'm going to do what I need to do to present myself the way that a board of directors expects?
Yeah. To be honest, I think that you find that if you're always trying to please somebody else, it'll always be a bottomless pit. There'll always be somebody else that you didn't please, even though you pleased all those other people. So I think I lean much more now to stay true to the core, right? So I'm not out there like doing things for shock value, but if I want to post something, if I want to be me, that is also part of what maybe has been some of the, you know, ability to get to where I am and, you know, kind of like career shift and level and energy shift. And it's just like being unapologetically, I think whether or not people love it. I'm sure there are people right now who are watching this and they have things that they don't, you know, like. Great. I mean, that's just what it is. So I lean to like authenticity.
One of the things that Katie was talking about earlier and I kind of want to keep the thread going on that is the idea that, you know, artists feel like the stuff that they're getting most famous or most successful for is not the art, the thing that they love the most, that they put that creative blood, sweat, and tears in. And in some ways, like that can be unfortunate if you're the kind of artist that just wants to be an artist. But what I think it's also emblematic of is this emerging trend that I know your company is taking advantage of with artists, which is artists building brands outside of their art that wind up being more valuable than even the art they created. Like, for example, 50 Cent, I would imagine, has made a lot more money being attached to vitamin water than he's made from any of his records. And, you know, for those of us who are purists about music, perhaps we see that as a sad state of affairs. But for those of us who just want to see artists be successful and be empowered, we see this as a welcome development. Yeah. What's your feeling on this emerging trend?
I think it's great. For instance, I work with E1, which is the spinoff of F1. So F1's the cars and the racing. E1 is the electric, actually boat racing. They look like spaceships on the water. They're called race birds. And Tom Brady, Will Smith, Mark Anthony, LeBron James, and Rafa Nadal all are team owners. Okay. So if you Google E1, you'll see they all have Steve Aoki too. There's like Team Aoki, Team James, so on and so forth. And, I think what's cool about it is that because of their attachment, it's also made the world care about this new sport. And I think that is the power of celebrity and brand in general, right? And also, listen, for artists, again, who've put all that blood, sweat, and tears, and we talked about like how they don't always see like real financial gain. This is finally the way that they have outside of what's called 360 deals, because record labels do 360 deals. They own everything in that, you know, in the musical imprint, right? But outside of it, they finally have an ability to win. And so if you think about it, why do they make so much money? And it's because scale. It's like not everybody listens to 50 Cent, but, you know, everybody wants to drink or needs to drink water, right? And especially like cool branded water. So I think it's a win. I think it's cool.
It is nice to see. And it is nice to see that, you know, 30 years ago when artists got involved with brands, the only thing they got was like a sponsorship check.
Yeah.
You know, here is the fee that we are paying you for appearing in our commercial or endorsing our product. But at some point along the line, artists have realized their value to a brand, and their value is in being a co-founder, in being a shareholder, in getting paid, you know, from the value of the company and not just getting cut a check. And many of these artists are seeing windfalls that they've never seen before, and are achieving levels of wealth that we thought were impossible for artists to achieve when they were just getting paid as labor. And I will say I am grateful for the work that companies like yours do in elevating those kind of artists involved brands. And so I imagine you must get a great deal of satisfaction knowing that you are playing such an important role in this great movement for artists.
Yeah, it's definitely, it's fulfilling, it's exciting. You know, and I think about guys even like Ashton Kutcher who have become huge VCs, you know.
Yep.
Ashton Kutcher just helped take Soho House back to being a private company, and he has, you know, Sound Grade Ventures, and he has, you know, he's made tons of investments in really cool stuff, right? And it's just, it's again, it's like break the mold, you know, here, break the business, break the mold. It's like, you know, people looked at him just like the dude, where's my car guy, really good looking, handsome, cool guy, married to Mila Kunis. But he's also, like, besides being an actor and a heartthrob, a brilliant venture capitalist. And so I think we need to get out of that world of let's put people in boxes. None of us are all one thing. You know, Michael Jordan was the original person to break the brand mold and change what those deal structures look like. If you saw the movie Nike that Ben Affleck was in, they were
Air,
like,
yeah,
they were like, hey, Michael Jordan, yeah, we're gonna give you like all these shoes in perpetuity for a lifetime, and we're gonna, like, you know, we're gonna pay you a couple $100,000 or $1 million. And he was like, no, I won't do this unless you give me a share of revenue on every single sneaker ever sold with my Air Jordan logo on it in like forever till the end of time. That just never happened, you know? So good for guys like that. And I want to see more women doing it. And so, yeah, I try to get behind things that I believe in and that I think, you know, are cool.
Heck yeah. Our guest has been Lance Pierce. She is a recording artist, entrepreneur, and the founder of Luminary Creative Agency. Visit luminarycreativeagency.com to learn more. Lance, before we let you go, I've got one last question for you. Do you have any last tips for the indie creators out there to help them move their careers forward?
I say make the content, the art, the story, the music, the videos that you want to make, and put it out there, and know that your audience is there. You may need to find them. Don't give up on them, but there is an audience for everything and for everyone. So stay on it. And then, you know, just get really, really clever and smart and continue to learn about what it is that you're doing. If something doesn't work, you know, try something else. But really, this business is usually not for the faint of heart. And it's because it takes and requires like a long-term, like steadfast commitment, and you can't be afraid to fail. So, you know, you want to be in it for a very long time, and you want to like make a difference. So, yeah.
Well, if all the indie artists in the world could have half the grit of a Lance Pierce, think of all the success stories we would find. Our thanks to Lance Pierce and Katie Zaccardi. Our thanks to producer Lauren. Our thanks to the Muppets. And our thanks to all of you viewers and listeners for checking out Break the Business. We love you. We'll see you next week.